A man disappears in Mpumalanga after claiming he has files that could shake the foundations of South Africa's political and policing systems. He says those files contain evidence of cartel-like networks operating inside powerful institutions, with alleged links reaching into law enforcement and political circles. And then, just as quickly as the claims surface, he goes silent. Not arrested, not officially protected, not publicly verified. He goes into hiding. And that's where this story stops being just another political allegation and starts becoming something far more unsettling. Because if what he is saying is true, it points to a system where crime and authority may be dangerously intertwined. But if it's not true, then we are looking at a case of explosive accusations that could destabilize reputations, institutions, and public trust. Either way, the country is already paying attention. Before we go deeper, if you want more investigative breakdowns like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe, because stories like this don't stay in the headlines for long, but their consequences can last for
Fikile
years.
Mbalula said I must meet with you. Later on, you, Fikile Mbalula, you know exactly what you did. The information that I provided you, you know very well, and it involves your guys from Mpumalanga, you know very well. You're protecting those guys there. You are part of these things. You are talking Mbalula there on social media, talking nonsense there, as if there's something that which you know. But you know for the fact you brought a criminal on me, the Patrick Matrable brought a criminal on me based on the information that I provided to. I told I need a protection. I provided a lot of information to state security agents. Bheki Cele, I called you very well. I told you, Bheki Cele, I called you. I said, bro, I need a protection. This is what I'm experiencing. Because I've mentioned people of your guys, you stopped answering my calls. I know, I spoke with you many times.
The question everyone is asking is simple but heavy. Who is this man really, and what exactly did he uncover? To understand why this situation has gained so much attention, you need to understand the environment it comes from. Mpumalanga has, over the years, been at the center of repeated allegations involving political tension, tender disputes, and violent conflicts linked to local governance structures. It is a province where power struggles are often not just political, they are deeply tied to access, money, and influence. Against this backdrop, claims of corruption are not new. But what makes this case different is the scale of what is being alleged. The man at the center of this controversy reportedly claims that he has access to documents or files that expose coordinated criminal networks operating within or around state structures. These claims extend to political figures and law enforcement agencies, including references made in public discussion to senior leadership in both government and policing. Names like Fikile Mbalula Bheki Cele have surfaced in discussions surrounding the allegations, though no verified evidence has been publicly confirmed linking them directly to any wrongdoing in this case. Still, the mention of such high-profile figures has intensified public interest dramatically. But here's where things get disturbing. Shortly after these claims began circulating, the man reportedly went into hiding. Not just withdrew from public attention, complete disappearance from visible engagement. No confirmed public location. No official statement clarifying his position. No transparent release of the alleged evidence he claims to possess. And that raises the first major question. Why would someone claiming to have such critical evidence choose silence at the exact moment when public attention is at its peak? Now, let's break down the timeline as it is understood from circulating reports and public discourse. The initial stage begins with the emergence of claims from the individual, suggesting that he had uncovered information involving corruption networks and possibly coordinated illegal activity linked to state structures. These claims begin spreading online, gaining traction in public conversations, particularly across social media platforms where political accountability is frequently debated. At this stage, there is no verified documentation made publicly available. Then comes the escalation. As the allegations gain attention, the narrative shifts from general claims of corruption to more specific references involving institutions such as the police service and elite investigative units. This is where public interest intensifies. Because when law enforcement agencies are mentioned in corruption narratives, the implications become significantly more serious. But what happened next raised serious questions. Instead of a structured legal process unfolding publicly, the man reportedly withdraws from visibility entirely. No press conference. No formal submission of evidence to public investigative bodies, at least none confirmed publicly. No controlled legal disclosure process. just silence. And in situations like this, silence becomes its own kind of statement. Now the story enters its most controversial phase. The public is left with two competing interpretations. On one side, there is the possibility that this is a whistleblower situation. Someone who believes they have uncovered sensitive or dangerous information and feels threatened enough to disappear for personal safety. South Africa has seen whistleblowers face intimidation before, especially in cases involving alleged corruption in state contracts, municipal governance, and procurement systems. So, from this perspective, the disappearance could be interpreted as protection, not evasion. But on the other side, there is a completely different interpretation. What if the claims are unverified or exaggerated? What if the mention of high-profile names is strategic rather than evidential? What if the disappearance is not about safety, but about controlling the narrative? This is where the story becomes deeply complex, because without verified documentation released publicly or through credible investigative channels, both interpretations remain possible. And that uncertainty is exactly what keeps the story alive. Now, let's talk about the hidden angles that are not being fully addressed in public conversations. One major question is about evidence handling. If someone claims to have files exposing serious corruption, the expected route is usually structured reporting, legal channels, independent investigative bodies, or verified media outlets with evidence review processes. So, why has there been no confirmed structured release of this material? Another question is timing. Why do such allegations often emerge during periods of political tension or public distrust? Is it coincidence? Or is it part of a broader pattern where accusations surface during moments when institutions are already under scrutiny? And then there's the most uncomfortable question of all. Why are people so ready to believe it? Because whether the claims are true or not, the reaction tells its own story. This is where the political and social impact becomes significant. In South Africa, public trust in institutions has been under pressure for years due to repeated allegations of corruption, procurement irregularities, and political interference in governance structures. So when a story like this emerges, it doesn't enter a neutral environment. It enters an environment already shaped by suspicion. And that changes everything, because even unverified claims can reinforce existing beliefs about systemic corruption. If the allegations were ever proven true, the implications would be severe. It would suggest that criminal networks may have penetrated areas of governance and law enforcement, potentially influencing decision-making processes and undermining institutional independence. That would have direct consequences for public trust, investor confidence, and institutional credibility. But even without proof, the discussion itself has consequences. It fuels political tension. It deepens public skepticism. It reinforces narratives of institutional failure. And it places pressure on officials and agencies mentioned in public discourse to respond, even when formal accusations have not been legally established. Now, public reaction has been divided. Some people view the man as a potential whistleblower who exposed something dangerous and is now at risk. Others see him as part of a pattern where allegations are used strategically in political environments to influence perception or gain leverage. On social media, discussions are intense, with users debating credibility, evidence standards, and institutional accountability. Meanwhile, media coverage has been cautious in many spaces, often focusing on reporting the allegations rather than confirming their validity, which reflects the difficulty of handling unverified but highly sensitive claims. Officials linked in public discussions have generally not made detailed public confirmations regarding the allegations themselves, which is standard in situations where investigations are not formally established or where claims remain unverified. But here's where things get even more uncertain. What happens next depends entirely on whether any formal investigative process is launched and whether credible evidence is ever submitted and verified. If evidence exists and is submitted through proper channels, it could trigger official investigations, forensic reviews, and potentially legal proceedings. If no evidence is produced, the case may gradually fade from public attention, becoming part of a growing archive of unresolved public allegations. And in between those two outcomes lies a long period of uncertainty. Because right now, there is no confirmed resolution, no verified document release, No concluded investigation. Only claims, reactions, and silence. And that is what makes this story so powerful in the public imagination. Because it exists in a space where truth has not yet fully emerged, but suspicion has already taken hold. So the final question is not just about this man or the claims he made. It is about how societies process allegations when evidence is unclear, emotions are high, and trust in institutions is already fragile. Is this a case that will eventually lead to accountability and clarity? Or is it another story that will remain suspended between belief and doubt, never fully resolved? Right now, there are no easy answers, only questions. And maybe that is the most important part of this entire story. Because what people choose to believe in moments like this says as much about the system as it does about the story itself. Now the question is in your hands. What do you think is really happening here?